Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the SOULKATION podcast. I have Dr. Dennis Kimbro with us here today, and I'm super excited about this interview. Just a little background information on him. He is an educator, a best-selling author that has published 5 phenomenal books. I think he's working on another one. I think so. We'll see. And also a business school professor. He's one of the top business speakers in the field of management, leadership, entrepreneurship, human potential, wealth, and success. He's appeared on the Today Show, Larry King, CNN. He's also been featured in Success Magazine, Wall Street Journal, New York Times, The Washington Post, and USA Today, just to name a few, okay? He's a powerhouse, everybody. He's a powerhouse. Welcome to the SOULKATION podcast.
Yeah. So how are you doing, Miss Logan? How long have you been into this game?
The podcast has been around since August of 2018.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah.
And what made you jump out there?
Getting over the fear of doing it. Yeah. And I knew I was supposed to do it. And it's been one of the greatest things of my life that I've chosen to do. So I'm grateful that I even started it. And I kept it going.
Great.
Yeah. So let's do some backgrounds. Where did you grow up? And did you know then that you would be doing what you would be doing, with your career? Did you know that?
Well, if you look at my background, it probably wouldn't be that difficult to connect the dots. And this is the reason why. To answer your question, I grew up in New Jersey and raised by mother and father. My parents met. And this is a sort of circuitous way to answer your question. My father was coming back from serving in World War II, and my mother, she was a nanny. She worked for a wealthy white family in Jersey, and she was responsible for taking care of the children. And whenever they went on vacation or they had outings, my mother was there to watch the children. And they were vacationing out in California, your neck of the woods.
Yes.
And they were taking the train all the way from New Jersey out to California. They took my mother. She was going to watch their children. And my father was coming back from serving in World War II, and he was on the same train. And they met in Enid, Oklahoma. Enid, a little small town in Oklahoma. And they didn't go back to Oklahoma until 1972 when I graduated undergraduate. And so to answer your question, how did I know I was going to be in this field? I was a very inquisitive child. My mother used to always say to me, boy, you ask too many questions. And, this, and I just wanted to know. And so where does my father come in? My father had an older brother. He made his transition more than 3 years ago. But when we were growing up, Logan, my father was a stickler in education, and he had one rule: couldn't watch TV on school nights, okay? But he made one exception, and I'll never forget. This show came on 8 o'clock at night, half an hour on a Tuesday, and my father required me and my brother to watch this show. And what was the name of the television show? It was called Biography. And the host was Mike Wallace. And it was only on for 30 minutes. Now, Logan, there were no black profiles. I take that back. I remember seeing Jackie Robinson, but all the 99.9% of the profiles were white.
Yeah.
Winston Churchill, Charles de Gaulle, Eleanor Roosevelt, FDR, Teddy Roosevelt. I mean, you name it, the King and Queen of England, and blah, blah, blah. And after the show, my father would quiz me and my brother. Okay, what did you learn? Okay, do you think you can do that? Do you have a goal? What do you want to do in life? Okay, what did this show mean to you? How do they overcome this obstacle? This, that, and everything. And that just stuck with me. And what I've done over the course of my life has, I guess, been a written form of biography. And then when I was about to defend my dissertation, and I've shared this story before, arguably the second round of best advice that I'd ever been given was one of my committee chairs. And he said to me, he said, Dennis, writing this dissertation, don't look at this as fulfilling a requirement for your PhD. Look at this as your first book. Think of your dissertation as your first book. And I said, okay. So I was granted the doctorate, and several months later, I turned to my wife and I said, I got my first book. And she said, good. And I said, but it's not going to be on wealth and poverty among underdeveloped countries, because that was my dissertation. I said, don't want to study poverty, don't want to have anything to do with poverty, and I don't want to study nation states. I want to study wealth, and I want to study African Americans. Now, Logan, that was a walk of faith, because when I started this in the 1980s, there was none of that. I tell people all the time the pushback that I received at the time, even from my own. Yeah. I mean, I had folks saying I was crazy, and they called me a conservative, and they called me a capitalist, and they said no one's going to buy the book. And I had, I don't know how many publishers reject my manuscript, and this and that. Number one, this is a business book, and number two, blacks don't read, and all that. And I said, no, this is nonsense. So, I mean, you look at all the folks who are out there now on their Logan. In the early 1980s was none of that.
Right.
I mean, I had started year 3 on what became Think and Grow Rich, a Black Choice, before Les Brown ever decided to start yet. I was in year 3 when Les Brown said, I want to be a speaker. I was in New York, the book had been out, and I was giving a public lecture, and I sold books after, and here comes a young lady who couldn't even make eye contact with me by the name of Ayanna Van Zant. Dr. Kimbro, I want to write, and I want to speak, but I don't know if anybody's going to listen to me. I said, don't think that way. I said, come on, man, get a dream, go for it, this, that, and everything. You believe so? I know so. Yeah. And look at Ayanna now, and then I share with folks the story how and he sent me a nice letter. He had been homeless. He couldn't find his way, damn near eating out of garbage cans, until one of his mentors up in Michigan gave him a copy of the book that you have in your hand right now. Reads the book, applies the principles. His life is on an upward trajectory. And one day I'm in my office at school, and one of the work study students delivers all the mail, and here's a letter from Eric Thomas saying that story that he uses when you want to succeed as bad as you want to breathe. And he talks about, and I knew where he got it from because it was in page 86 of my book, and the rest is history. So now I'm not saying that for my personal aggrandizement. Logan, I don't need approval. I mean, yeah, I'm like anybody else. I love it when people say, oh, Dr. Kimbro, I read your book, it changed my life. I love it when I'm at the airport and somebody walks up to me, oh man, sign my book. I love it when I get letters and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I like it, but Logan, I don't need it.
Yeah.
Big difference.
Yeah.
Because if you need approval, and you don't get it, you'll be immobilized. And if you ever want the case study of immobilization, all you got to do is go to Washington, D.C. and look at that boy in the White House. Here he is. He constantly needs approval. And when he doesn't get it, he's immobilized. Especially with women. That's a nasty question. How dare you? Next. And so, I mean, that's where you are. Your behavior reveals your values.
That's good.
And we are on this planet. I tell my students all the time, and why weren't you born the same year I was born? I was born 1950, and I stand before students who were born at the turn of the millennium. And the reason why you were born in 1950, the world wasn't ready for you. But now that you are here, all the lights are green, all the stops have been removed, all the obstacles are barren from your path. And then my students would give me pushback. Well, those Kimbro, man, obstacles and blah, blah, blah. I said, wait a minute, man. What does it say in the Bible? The Bible says, number 1, complete thy noble task. And number 2, what does it say? It says, you know, hey, I've given you, these and greater gifts you will be capable of. Yeah. Just go ahead, solve the problem. You were given the keys to the kingdom. Let me get out of your way. So that's where we are in life. This is the absolute best time in the universe to be alive.
Yeah.
Why? All right. So there's a quote unquote pandemic out there. All right. Let's talk about this pandemic. You go to the World Health Organization, click onto their website, and they track on a daily basis 10,000 diseases. Logan, what the hell is a disease? Dissect it. Dis-ease. It's lack of ease. So the World Health Organization tracks 10,000 diseases. All right. Let's go over to the CDC. Let's click on their website. They track on a daily basis 400 diseases. So between the World Health Organization and the CDC, 10,400 diseases. From bloodshot eyes to shaving bumps. From cancer to irritable bowel syndrome. From headache to loss of hair, whatever. Now, that's the bad news. The good news, Logan, not one single of those diseases were created by your creator. Not one of those diseases was created by God. So my students say, well, that's Kimbro, God didn't create that. Why is it here? I said, no, God didn't create that disease, you did. Half the disease, Logan, is caused by inadequate drinking water. Maybe the reason why your creator blew breath into your little cute, pretty lungs was for you to go to India and dig a well. You don't know. And some folks, they did go. Elon Musk, he went over there and dug a well. Elon Musk of Tesla. Bill Gates of Microsoft, he did go over to Africa and dig a well so people could have adequate drinking water of Microsoft. So complete the noble task. Do what you've been sent here to do. Now, why won't folks do what they've been sent here to do? Fear. Again, something that the Almighty did not create. Adam, where art thou? I was hiding. Why were you hiding, Adam? I was afraid. Adam, who taught you fear? And that's not me. That's Nelson Mandela. Nelson Mandela is about to make his transition, and he agrees to one last interview. And the journalist asks him, he says, Mr. Mandela, I just got to ask you this question in the little time that we have left. He said, what is the purpose of life? And Mandela said, I got to be a little bit Socratic. In order to tell you the purpose of life, I got to ask you a couple of questions. He said, sure, go ahead. He said, number one, have you moved from fear to fearless? Have you moved from fear to fearless? And number two, have you closed the gap between your potential and your performance? Logan, you've got unlimited potential. Unlimited potential. Have you ever sat down and answered the following 4 questions regarding your life's potential? Question number 1, where have you been? Where have you been? What the hell have you been doing? Come on, girl, you're not 16. You've been on the planet for a while. I mean, what's going on? What have you been doing? So number 1, where have you been? Question number 2, why are you here? Why are you here? Logan, what's the 5 great events in your life? If you didn't show up at this point in time, what would the world miss? What would if you weren't here at this point, what would the world miss? Logan, what's the free prize inside? Just like you get a box of Cracker Jacks and you open up, there's a free prize inside. When somebody opens you up, what's the free prize inside? What's that one special, unique talent gift that no one knew? And the only way they're going to find out is to buy into you.
I'm writing them down.
Wow. I mean, that's powerful. Question number 3, what can you do? I mean, what is your area of excellence? What's the number 1 thing you do better than anybody else? And then last but not least, Miss Logan, where are you going? You got the keys to the car. Where are you driving? This is a creator economy. Now, why does I say the absolute best time to be on it? Because you got one problem right now. And what is that one problem? COVID-19, quote unquote, the virus. And why do I say it's the best time to be alive? Because you have about 200,000 of your absolute best thinkers in the world concentrating on this one single problem. 200,000. You got Nobel laureates. You got billionaires. You got the absolute sharpest breast scientists in the world. You got a committed response team. You got nurses and first responders who will give up their life to go ahead and give somebody a shot, to go ahead and take somebody's temperature, to go ahead and help somebody drink this, this water, this elixir, whatever. 200,000 of the best responders and thinkers in the world focused on one problem. It's powerful.
That is powerful.
That is powerful. And you haven't seen this before, until World War II with FDR. And then prior to FDR, where do we see this type of thinking before, man? It only happens like once a lifetime or once every 100 years. And this is my third, quote unquote, pandemic. This is the third time I've been through this. Because I remember, I didn't even enter elementary school, but I remember my mother taking me down to the Board of Health to get my polio shot. I remember that. And there was a huge room and the white coats that everybody was afraid of, and kids were just crying and mothers were holding their children because I couldn't enter school with that. And I remember, seeing a sea of children in wheelchairs. And I remember kids on crutches. Why? Because there was a bad strain of the polio vaccine, and more than 100,000 kids, one of their limbs was paralyzed because of it. I had friends who had an arm paralyzed who got the shot. I had friends who had a hand paralyzed who got a bad batch of that vaccine. So that was my number one pandemic. Number two, I was like in the second or third grade when the nurses from the Board of Health came to my elementary school and gave us the vaccine for tuberculosis. They came in the school. You had a choice: either take your child down to the Board of Health and get the vaccine, and if you won't do it, we're bringing them into the school. And my wife, who is upstairs right now, she had, distant family members who died because they didn't get the tuberculosis vaccine. So this is my third rodeo, man. I remember this, man. This is nothing new. But unlike the other two, you got the absolute best thinkers. And what we need another, like the Sabin vaccine, Dr. Sabin, who came up with the vaccine for polio. And don't you know, he didn't monetize it. People, and they didn't even give him the Nobel Prize for it. And they asked him, surely you're going to charge for it. You came up with the cure. And he said, no. What did he say, Logan? He said, the vaccine belongs to the people. Wow. That's called moral leadership. And that's what we don't have now. We need moral leadership. And I don't care what people say. People say, well, the goal, some people will say, listen, I taught leadership over my academic career. They say, well, the goal of a leader is develop more leaders. No, that's not the goal of a leader. The goal of a leader, Logan, is to invite people on a journey as they discover themselves while they're following you. While they're following you. That's the only way I teach class. No, you're going to discover who you are. My colleague says, Kimbro, are you crazy? What are you doing? So they look at my syllabus, like the last assignment that I had in my class, one of the assignments my students had to complete, they had to give a TED Talk. Yep, not an 18-minute, 4-minute. No, you're going to give me a TED Talk. I need to know what's on your mind. I need to know, what are you thinking? Number one, I use case studies and everything, but some of the assignments, if I gave you $1 billion, what problem would you solve? If I gave you $5 billion, what problem would you solve? It's powerful. Now, why do I do that? Because the only way that you can analyze a case, the better the case analysis, the better the question, the better the case analysis. The better the question, the better the case analysis. And that's what we have to do in life, man. Ask the critical questions. Like I asked you, have you found your area of excellence? And there's only 3 questions in order to find your area of excellence. Number one, what do you love to do? What do you have a passion for? What can you throw your whole heart and soul into? For me, all right, you're in my study. I could go ahead and maybe take a virtual picture and show you the whole first floor of my house is my study. And we can open up those doors right there. As soon as you walk down that hall, you will see rows and rows and rows and rows of books. My junior year in undergrad, I knew I was going to be a college professor. So my junior year of undergrad, I no longer sold my books after the class. I kept them. So now we're in my study, and you see behind me more books right there. And what you can't see are more books right here. But those books back there, now I know I got a mini library. I got just rows and rows of books. But what's the difference about these books right here? There's about, what, about 25, 30 books right there. What's so different and unique about those books? Those books have had a profound impact on my life.
Can you name some of them?
Oh yeah, you got The Wealth of Nations by Adam Smith. You got Mary Baker Eddy, Science and Health with Keys to the Scriptures. You got Science of Mind. Okay, you can look at it. You got Science of Mind by Ernest Holmes. You got a couple of Bibles. Yep, gotta have my Bibles. And one Bible was given to me on Father's Day, and another Bible was given to me. It was through Robert Schuller's Hour of Power. And here, I know you can't see it.
Blacks are growing rich.
Yep. And what is it?
Yeah.
The last 100 pages of Napoleon Hill. The book that you have in your hand, this, and you can see it right here. You never thought your podcast would be like this, did you?
I like it.
Here you go.
Wow.
This is the manuscript that was dropped in my lap by W. Clement Stone, and he said, finish it. Last 100 pages.
Wow.
So there you are. So, you know, what do you love? The question number 2, you know, what would you do for free? If no one ever paid you a dime, Logan, and you're probably doing it now with your podcast. Yeah. What would you do for free? What would you do without financial, you know, remuneration, without monetizing? Because when you're doing what you love to do and you do it for free, your work is your play. And if your work is your play, you'll never work a day in your life. You'll never work. Henry David Thoreau says, don't die with your music left in you. Well, every time I step into the classroom, the students in my class, they're going to sing my song. Just like the rapper Too Short says, it's been way too long, time for the world to sing your song. I listen to Too Short, baby. No, you're going to sing my song today, damn it. So let's get in key. So, you know, and then last but not least, if you can't answer those 2 questions, go to somebody who you respect and admire and ask them, what do you see me as? What do you think I would be good at doing? That's what happened to me at undergrad. My fraternity brothers called me the professor. Why? I always had a book under my arm. They said, where's Kimbro, man? He's playing. Oh, he's in the library. He's in the lab. He's in study hall. He's reading. I knew. And so complete thy noble task.
That's so good. I'm
Yeah.
happy. You said in the book, your thoughts are the prophets of your future. So how can we even like create a healthy imagination?
I mean, that's good. You are the sum total of what you've been thinking. And the problem right now is too much damn distraction. How much time do you spend seated alone? How much time do you spend visualizing? How much time do you spend focusing? And what is here? This is my journal book. This is, hey, I write, man. I got a thought. Let me go ahead and write this down. Let me think. But the problem, Logan, is too much damn distraction. Too many notifications. Too many likes. Too many followers. Too many interruptions. Man, you ought to take this thing and throw it out the window. It wasn't created for that. It wasn't when, and I don't know if you heard me say this before, but I know people have heard me say it before. When Zuckerberg came up with Facebook, when Reid Hoffman came up with LinkedIn, when Chad Hurley came up with YouTube, when Evan Spiegel came up with Snapchat, when Kevin Systrom came up with Instagram, man, they came up with these social media platforms. So like I said, some poor child in Bangladesh could have adequate drinking water. They came up with these social media platforms to some poor, schoolgirl in Johannesburg, South Africa. Somebody might be motivated or inspired to buy her a school uniform so she could go to school. The one thing they didn't come up with these social media platforms is to get on these damn cell phones and gossip. And that's what we're doing. Too much distractions. So, I mean, man, yeah, how much time do you think, and Martin Luther King said it in the late 1950s, early 60s, your life is officially over, he said, the day you begin to talk about and think about and discuss everything that doesn't matter. Everything that doesn't matter. Who cares? Who cares? Logan, look at me. Look at the driveway. Here you are in my house. I'm in my study. Look out that window right there. You see my driveway. What is my car? My car is a Lexus 2006. 2006. My car is 14 years old. That's Kimbro, you need a Mercedes Benz. You got why? I got my car. Come on, man. I got other things to do. All right, one day I'm not saying I may not, but that's my car, man. So what? Where am I going to drive it? Now I'll probably be right here teaching virtual because I know with my 5th book, The Wealth Choice, I'm in the process now of developing online learning for that book. There is too much information between Think and Grow Rich or Black Choice and The Wealth Choice not to share it. And now that's my task. I got to share it.
Yeah.
It's not fair to all the interviews I have.
Yeah.
Just like you got this podcast, it's not fair to the people who's going to give you an hour of their time for you to sit on it. I mean, you're in a key spot, Logan. Go give it away.
Yeah.
And in the process of giving it away, that's when it'll be given unto you. They got monetization all wrong. All right. How can I make it? How can I corner the market? How can I get it? It doesn't work that way. I mean, the bottom line is love. Money is not the bottom line. Love is. You love your customers. You're an entrepreneur. You love your customers. You're going to be giving more customers. That's how it works.
Yeah.
You love your students. Guess what? You're going to get more students. You love your coworkers. You're going to make manager in no time. You love your job. You're going to be CEO. I mean, that's the way it works. But we got it all wrong. And that's not me. That's Adam Smith, The Wealth of Nations. We don't live in a capitalist. This nonsense that we have is not capitalism. There's only one form of capitalism, and that was created in 1776 by Adam Smith. Number one, Adam Smith was an economist. Number two, you ready for this? Adam Smith was an abolitionist. He was an abolitionist, man. He was a moralist. He was totally against slavery. And he told them, he said, why do you keep asking me the question? The question is obvious. This only works when I allow you the freedom to, to pursue your divine self-interest. And then you allow me my freedom to pursue my divine self-interest. And who's going to benefit? The greater good. That was Adam Smith. But damn it, what did you do? I allowed you the freedom to pursue your divine self-interest, and you blocked me from doing mine. Slavery. He said, that's not capitalism. He told them that. So what do we have right now? We got a bastardized form of socialism for the wealthy. That's what we have right now. And that's why you got a wealth gap that is off the chart. And that wealth gap can only go one way, get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and wider and wider. And what is it based on? It's based on those who invest in the stock market and those who don't. It's that simple. Now, I'm not saying any stock. I'm not talking the Fortune 500 or the top 15. Oh no, I'm not talking about that. What am I talking about, Logan? I'm talking about investing in super stocks, right? You close your eyes and you invest in the Dow Jones Industrials or NASDAQ, and I don't care, good day, bad day, you come back to your stocks about a year later, and if you're average 12 to 14% return, that's what the stock market gives you, about 12 to 14% return. You can't save that fast enough, but you invest in stocks and you leave it alone and you're in there for long haul, it'll give you 12 to 14%. But if you invest in a super stock, all right, how in the world Bill Gates, how in the world Warren Buffett, how in the world Jeff Bezos of Amazon, and you say, oh man, Bezos of Amazon, his net worth is 109 billion. That's not his earnings from Amazon that created that 109 billion. He just takes his cut of the pie and invests all his billions, whether it's 10 or 20 billion. You invest 10 or 20 billion into a super stock with a 30% return, and you do that every year, in the words a little flip, it's game over. So what's a super stock? A super stock is Apple Computer when it's less than $2. A super stock is Netflix, when it's less than $2. A super stock is Chipotle when it's $1.50. You can't catch up, and you go in there and you put billions on the table and you do that, that creates the wealth. And then you got another portion, you got 50% of my race. 50%, listen to me, Logan, I love you madly, girlfriend. 50% of my race, when they wake up in the morning and their feet hit that cold ground, first thing in the morning, they got one goal, one dream, one vision in mind. And what is that? Get through this day by any means necessary. Lord, help me get through these 24 hours by any means necessary. That's the goal. That's the goal. So that might mean, where am I going to get breakfast for these kids? School is out. I don't have money to feed them and get car fare to my job both. Man, oh my goodness, I got a boy, he's good in sports and he wants to go to this football camp. Ain't nobody got money for that. That's the difference. That is your wealth gap. That is, if this country wanted to do anything, forget affirmative action, forget all that nonsense. This is the fun, and when we talk about reparations for African Americans, These are the 3 objectives that got to be on the top of the list. And you really don't need, if you would do these 3 things, Logan, you wouldn't need reparations. See, people think of reparations and they think, all right, we're going to take the GDP of the United States, which is about 19 trillion, okay, and we're going to divide it by the population, which is about 340 million, but we're not going to divide it by the population. We're just going to divide it by how many African Americans in the United States, which is about 34, 35 million. And Logan, everybody going to get a check for 150, 200,000. No, I don't want that. Why? Because if they cut you a check, if they cut my race a check on Monday, Tuesday, it's going to be back in their hands. Don't want that.
Yeah.
This is a better procedure. Number 1, top of the list. This is the only country on the face of the earth. This is the only advanced society on the face of the earth that marries a child's education to home values. That's Kimbro, what are you talking about? I'm saying the higher the home value, the better education that child's going to get. So here we are in Atlanta. You ever been to Atlanta?
Yes.
Okay. So what does that mean in Atlanta? That means the kid that lives up there in Buckhead gonna get a better education than the kid that lives in Bankhead. It's that simple. That means the kid that's up there in Johns Creek is going to get a better education than the kid in College Park. And here's the funny thing about that, Logan. The kid in, the kid up in Buckhead and the kid in Johns Creek, if he didn't go to school, man, the parents could pick up the phone, go ahead, text somebody, make all the connections for him, and that kid's life will be on the way anyway. It's the kid in Bankhead and the kid in College Park who needs the education. So number 1, nix that. Equal, even Steven across the board. Number 2, this is number 2. Gotta pay women dollar for dollar what they pay man. Equal compensation. I got 3 daughters. All of them college educated, all of them doing well. 2 of the 3 advanced degrees, 1 an MBA, 1 a master's in social work, another one will have her doctorate in the fall, doing well. But Logan, they'll never make on par what I earn. They never make dollar for dollar. There's not a state in the nation that'll pay a woman, more than 88 cents of what they would pay me a full dollar. And you, girlfriend, you made the mistake of being a part of Rhythm Nation. You're African American. I mean, the most you're going to get is 75 cents. Now, why is that critical that we pay you dollar for dollar? Because you have so many single parent households in the Black community where Black women are a contributing factor to the family's finances. They are the only breadwinner in that family. And if you paid them dollar for dollar what you would pay a man, do you know what you would do, Logan? You would end poverty in the Black community. Did you hear what I said?
Yes, sir.
If you did that Monday, Tuesday, poverty would be history. Poverty? What's poverty? I didn't see anybody see no poverty. Ain't no poverty. What's poverty, man? Poverty's history, brother. You would do that. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. And then last but not least, right? You got about 2 million Black businesses out there in the hinterland, 2 million of them. 95% are sole proprietorships. They're not growth businesses. And what we need right now, Logan, we need growth businesses. We need manufacturing businesses, okay? We need businesses with mergers and acquisitions type businesses. The only way we're going to develop those businesses, we got to have full-blown entrepreneurially venture businesses. Now, what am I saying right now? All right, so these 95% of them are sole proprietorships. That's really not entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship requires 5 phases, all right? Not going to give you an MBA lecture right now, but we're going to talk about the first 3 phases, okay? Phase number one is called new venture. What is new venture? You're working in corporate America. You got a job right there. You got a 9 to 5, but in the back of your mind, you know that in 5 years or less, you're going to get, you leaving this company, you're going to blast out on your own.
Can you use me as an example?
Yeah, 99% of people who are working are in the phase one, new venture. Haven't done nothing, you didn't invest anything, you don't even have a business card, but you know in the back of your mind, hey, in 3 years, sayonara, I am out of here, whatever. So phase number one is new venture. Phase number two is called startup. And what is startup? Hand in your resignation, you got your business cards, you got an office space, you cut the lights on. In phase number two at startup, you got skin in the game. You're going for it. You got overhead, you got, hey, looking at the bottom line, blah, blah, blah. You got a lot of businesses in startup right now. But phase number three, and this is the critical phase, because this is the phase that really blocks out, this is where the rubber meets the road for Black businesses and the majority of businesses. Phase number three, you are going from entrepreneur to manager. What do you mean? You got employees. Entrepreneur to manager. And a lot of entrepreneurs do not know how to manage. They don't know how to manage, man. You got the entrepreneur mentality and the management mentality, two different modes of thinking. And from entrepreneur to manager, you finally realize that number one, you got to find people who believe what you believe. Who believe what you believe. And number two, people don't care about you until they realize how much you care about them. What do you need to get through phase three? You need money. You need capital. You don't need anything. You can go ahead and start a business off of your cell phone if you want. You don't need that. But if you're going to produce an entrepreneurially driven company, you need capital. And why do I say that's number three? They got to get, in terms of reparation, you got to invest in Black businesses. You've got to invest in Black businesses. Why? Because Black businesses employ Black employees. Black businesses hire Black employees. Black businesses are the number one employers of Black America. Black businesses are number one. Walmart is number two. McDonald's is number three. Only 15% of African Americans work in corporate America. Less than 20% of African Americans are college degreed. So what are you saying, Dr. Kimbro? I'm saying, don't look for corporate America to hire us. Don't look for corporate America to offer the panacea. Don't look for corporate America to give us the anecdote. No, Black businesses will. And that's not me. That's your most prolific scholar, W.B. Du Bois. He said that in 1897. That's all I did. You go ahead and read The Wealth Choice, and I give my props to Du Bois. I teach at the same school where he taught. Atlanta University is now Clark Atlanta. The building, the School of Business, the next building over from the School of Business is called Harkness Hall. In the basement of Harkness Hall, that was his office. He taught there for 9 years. He taught sociology. He taught civics. He taught history. He taught Greek. He taught economics. There was no School of Business back then. He taught economics. And don't you know, Logan, for 3 of the 9 years that he was on staff, that he taught at Atlanta University, he was university chaplain. In 1897, he wrote a book called The Negro in Business. You'll only be able to find that book at your top universities. We got a copy of it at Clark Atlanta, and it's not on the stacks. You got to go to the curator, and the curator will, put you in a carrel, put you in a room, and bring it to you, and, close the door. And when you're through, you call the curator in, and the curator takes it back into the archives. And I've done that more times than I can count when I was writing The Wealth Choice. But within the first 30 pages of that book, Logan, there are 2 quotes he has in that book. And I'm reading it and I'm saying, he wrote this in 1897. Damn it, why are we even think about and doing this? Why are we even confronted with this nonsense today? Quote number 1, he says, the man or woman who won't control his or her finances won't control anything else. What is he saying? If you don't care about the money in your pocket, what do you care about HIV rates in the Black community? If you don't care about the money in your pocket, what do you care about crime, Black on Black crime in the Black community? If you don't care about the money in your pocket, why do you care about, the low figures of high school dropout, the high figures of high school dropout rates with Black males in your community? The man or woman who won't control his or her finances won't control anything else. And then number 2, this will blow you away. What does he say? He says, nothing positive will ever occur in a community that fails to circulate its dollars. Nothing positive will ever occur in a community that fails to circulate its dollars. He's talking about you, Black America. The average dollar in the East Indian community stays there for 45 days before leaving. The average dollar in the Asian community stays there 24 days before leaving. The average dollar stays in the Jewish community 19 days before leaving. So here I am, I write The Wealth Choice, I go out to Tulsa, Oklahoma, I do my research on the Black Wall Street. And you listen to me, Miss Logan, and you make sure this podcast goes viral. There you are, Black Wall Street, Tulsa, Oklahoma, Greenwood, Archer, and Pine. That was the section. Those were the streets, Greenwood, Archer, and Pine in Tulsa, Oklahoma. 36 square block. You had 15,000 of the absolute baddest Black folks on the planet lived in that 15,000 square block. 1920s, Black Wall Street, from the 1918, 1921, those 15,000 Blacks that lived there, the Black Wall Street. Why do they call it that? Because with those 15,000, oh my God, you had a hospital, you had a bank, you had 6 airplanes, you had 3 movie theaters, you had 30 grocery stores, you had 21 restaurants, you even had a bus service. And the average dollar in that Black community stayed in that community, Miss Logan, for 6 months to a year before it ever left. 6 months to a year before it ever left. Okay. 30 grocery stores. And here I am, in a section not too far. I mean, you go to Atlanta and there are sections in Atlanta in the Black community that they call food deserts. Food deserts. Where if you wanted to be, a vegetarian, you couldn't be a vegetarian because you ain't got no stores that sell plant-based diets.
That's true.
You don't even have grocery stores in your neighborhood that serve vegetables. How you gonna be a vegetarian? Just take your ass on up there. I'm sorry about Miss Logan. Sorry, baby. You didn't hear that. You didn't hear that. Just go on up there to McDonald's and get that quarter pound. Eat it for the rest of your life. And then wonder why you're overweight, and wonder why you got closed arteries, and wonder why you're hypertension, and wonder why. Yep, So I wonder how that works. Okay. There's an African proverb that says, if you don't know who you are, anybody can name you, and if anybody can name you, you will answer to anything. And that's what we're doing right now. We're answering anything. So what you have in your hand is, you got Think and Grow Rich, you got What Makes the Great Great, and you got the Wealth Choice. I'm just doing the same thing that the Romans emperors did back in the day of the Caesars, of all the Caesars. And whenever you walked into their halls, and whenever you walked into their institutions, and whenever you walked into their academies, you know, they had headshots, and they had busts, and they had statuettes, and they had the books. And the books were critically important, because with these books, you pass on this information from one generation to the next, one generation of greatness to the next. And when it got time for me to write these books, particularly with Think and Grow Rich, A Black Choice, there was a section on success that was missing. I mean, Logan, don't you know that before, okay, you look at the 300 and 400 years of our experience here in the United States. Okay, those 300s, Columbus came here, and 1492, and this, that, and everything, and blacks, followed him shortly. But if you look at, for 5,000 years prior to the 1400s, for 5,000 years prior to 1400 AD, we had 5,000 years of nothing but excellence. 5,000 years of extraordinary. Your race, for 5,000 years, Logan, your race was so far in first place, you didn't even know who was in second place. You looked over your shoulder, you couldn't even see second place. They had to tell you who was in second place because you couldn't see it. I mean, you look at, okay, so Socrates taught Plato and Plato taught Aristotle. You look at Greece and see what Greece is compared to Africa. It's walking distance. It was walking distance. And what did Plato create? Took everything that he learned and he created the academy. What is academy? According to Plato, academy is kindergarten to terminal degree, PhD. All I tried to do is, and again, you asked me the question, I told you when I defended my doctorate and my advisor came out, I was waiting in the hall, what seemed like eternity. And he came out, he shook my hand, and he said, Dr. Kimbro, congratulations. He said, now go advance the academy. Those are his words, go advance the academy. In other words, tell us something that we didn't know. And I said, okay, I'm gonna tell you a lot if you don't. So there you are, Ms. Logan. I hope it worked out for you. That is an hour. I know you didn't get a chance to ask any questions.
It was
maybe
okay.
Maybe we can revisit it.
Do a part two.
Yeah, because we didn't even talk about the books, man. We didn't even talk about the Wealth Choice.
We'll have to do a part two.
Yeah, we didn't even talk about the Wealth Choice, and they need to know about the Wealth Choice. Yeah. Because Logan, these are Black men and women who created wealth, who started from nothing. These were self-made men and women who they came, that your average millionaire comes from a home of what? $10,000 household income. That's doo-doo. If all you had was $10,000, you'd probably jump off the roof. Your car is probably worth more than $10,000.
Maybe not.
So, I mean, that you talk about from a standing start. And you got what, 8 or 9 black billionaires, and I interviewed 3 of them? They need to know what these folks said. That's powerful, man.
It is.
That is powerful. And just the quotes. This will blow you away, and I'm going to leave after this, okay? Come January, all right? January 2021 will be the 30-year anniversary of Think and Grow Rich, a Black Choice, okay? It will be re-released in an anniversary edition. They're gonna, the book in your hand right now, won't have that anymore. It'll be a 30-year anniversary edition, and it'll be like this, black leather with gold gilded edges. Yeah, 30-year. But here's the thing. Every day from January 1st to December 31st of 2021, on social media, I will give the 365 best quotes in Think and Grow Rich, a Black Choice.
That's good.
Yep.
I'm excited.
Yeah. Every day for the entire year. No, you're gonna hear this, man. You're gonna, come on, let's do something, Black America. Get over your love affair with last place. Get over your love affair with the 2 words, I can't. Get over your love affair with the word impossible. Don't want to hear it. Don't want to hear it. I tell my students in the, when they come to class, first time they come to class, on their desk is an index card and a pencil. And they sit down, and I said, you don't even know what the index card and pencil for? I said, no, Dr. Kimbro, what is it for? I said, I want you to write your story. What do you mean write my story? Everybody got a story. Everybody got a story, the reason why they can't. Well, here's my story. The reason why I can't, my mama was a nanny. She had a 7th grade education. Parents didn't have any money, this, that, and everything. Okay, and what is your story? I came from an abusive environment, and what is your story? Both of my parents were on drugs. They've been in rehab. I got an older brother incarcerated. All right, go ahead. Everybody write your story, okay? And then one by one, I tell them, this is your one chance in my class that you get an opportunity to use your story. Tell us your story right now. Tell us your story. Go ahead, share it. All right. On the way out the class, take that index card. There's a trash can. I want you to put the story in that trash can. You just used it. You got no more excuses. Your story is over. It's finished. Now you can go ahead and do whatever you want to do. Why? You have a story, man. Everybody got a story.
That's so good.
Yeah, your story is history. No, you used it. It's over with. We heard that 2 weeks ago. That doesn't work. Yep. That's powerful.
That is powerful.
That's powerful. Wow. All right. Well, you hang in there, and I will hopefully be on your show again.
I believe so. Thank you so much for even coming on the podcast.
Now you hang in there, Logan. I love you madly. You got me on speed dial. We'll talk again.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.